Hello YouTube, this is Ariel coming to you again from my channel, and welcome back to another installment of Retro Life, where we review video games from the 1980s and 1990s. And once again, here is my co-host, CK.
Once again, hey everybody.
So we're reviewing games on a like, love, and loathe scale with graphics, music, sound effects, gameplay, controls, difficulty, fun factor, and story if applicable. And today we are going to be reviewing the classic game from the Sega Genesis, Ghouls N Ghosts.
It's the second game in the series, and it had a couple of spin-offs, which is pretty cool. And it was an arcade game released in 586 by Capcom. So it's part of their old collection of arcade games that got ported to their home console when they hit the market. I know it's basically a guy, Arthur, running around in an armor, shooting a spear or a sword or a dagger, and it's a pretty cool game. It's got a great history, and it's one of those classics.
It's a very popular series. Double Love is the highest score. No Triple Love. Double Love is a 6. Love is a 5. Double Like, that's going to be a 4. Like is a 3. Half Like 2. Loathe 1. And again, Double Loathe is a big fat 0. Let's get into it. What'd you think of the graphics in Ghouls N Ghosts, CK?
The graphics are great. The graphics are great. That's kind of my first impression when I had seen this game, and through the little confusion between Ghosts and Goblins and Ghouls and Ghosts, you realize there is a huge difference in graphics between the two games. And Sega's always been known to have very excellent sprite animation and sprite details when it comes to their game creation, and this doesn't do anything different. It makes the game enjoyable, and you wouldn't believe that it was released in '88 compared to some of the games we've seen on the NES at that time. This is a beautiful looking game. It gets a retro love from me.
Awesome. Yeah, this game came out, I believe, before the Super NES version. It is an earlier Genesis title. Graphically, it's not the best Sega Genesis graphical game. It's a little rough around the edges. It's a really nice looking game. I still feel the Super one looks a little better, but we're not really comparing them between the two. It's obviously inevitable that there's going to be some comparison between the Super version and the Genesis version. I find the Super one looks a little more arcadey to the original arcade,
yes.
I believe. Sprites are nice and big. The graphics look nice and sharp. They're colorful. They're very enjoyable to look at. It's a very, very beautiful looking game. I would give it a retro love. How about that?
All right.
So, moving on to music. What did you think of the music in Ghouls N Ghosts?
The music it's there. It's nothing fantastic. I don't think there's anything incredibly memorable about the games outside of like the main theme of the song. And it's the main theme of the song that really identifies this game. Where some games like Mario back in the day, the whole do that defined that generation, that defined that game and that series. And this game also has one of those tracks that once you hear it, especially if, as an adult who had played this game as a kid, you'd instantly know what it is. You remember what the game is. You remember all the trials and issues that came with that while playing it. Not that it doesn't have a variety of music, unlike the Mario days and the Genesis, what's his name there, the little blue hedgehog, yes. Sonic. They had varying tracks, and a lot of them became memorable throughout the game and the series. But it was one of those things where the only track I remember is the main track. Now the music is, I think it's good. It's nothing fantastic. I'd have to give it a retro like. The music isn't grinding, it doesn't get on your nerves, and even when the game gets frustrating, you can't really chalk it up to just bad music, because some games that we've played, bad music really ruins the mood in the game.
100%.
Yeah,
all I have to say is Back to the Future NES.
Oh god, don't say Back to the Future ever again.
Cringe.
Let's just say that.
Terrible music. No, the music definitely makes a difference. So you're like, so music for me, it's definitely one of the games out there that I consider good music. It's not up there with Streets of Rage 2 or Yoshi's Island. It's not repetitive. It's not 3 bars, over and over again, right? It's enjoyable music, but if I don't like the music right away, it just, right away you notice it. It's like sticks out like a sore thumb. Rygar, for instance, terrible music for the NES. hated that. But that's not the case with Ghouls N Ghosts. I really enjoy the music in Ghouls N Ghosts, and it's nice. It's fun. So I give it a retro love.
Nice.
It's a retro love. Very conservative today so far, eh? No double loves.
Hey, not yet.
Not yet. The review is young.
Yes.
Anyway, so moving on to sound effects. What did you think of the sound effects in Ghouls N Ghosts?
The sound effects are pretty basic. It's one of those ones where the music does enough that, the variety of sound effects that you get in here are standard for a game like this. I wouldn't expect a ton. The throwing of your lance or the dagger or the spirit ball or swinging the sword, it's all kind of got the same tone. When you hit a tombstone or anything that's solid, it makes a chinking sound. Similar to Sunset Riders, it serves a purpose for the game. It's nothing spectacular. It doesn't have this huge variety, but it definitely isn't monotone or very, one tone, I guess what you call it, chip tune. It's not just the same tune. It's not just the same tone. So for me, it's a retro-like. I wouldn't give it a half-like. I like it because, again, it works for the game, and in the generation in which this game was released, it does what it needs to do. So it's a pretty fair grade, and it's a good experience. It serves a purpose for the game, and it has enough variety that it's literally not... I was going to say the game again, the game that shall not be mentioned.
So this is the Harry Potter section of our review. For me, sound is... I don't really notice sound as much, sound effects. I mean, if it's there and it stands out, I don't pay attention to it, so it's hard for me to grade it, but it's good. It doesn't annoy me. There hasn't been many games that I played where like, oh my god, this sound is terrible, I've never had that. Most games from that era and today, obviously, but we're talking retro, the sound effects are usually either generic or they're good to average. They're never like, oh my god, the sound effects are amazing in this game. I've never played a game where I praise the sound effects. It's there. It's supposed to be there to enhance the game. You just don't want a game where you have no sound effects saying, why is there no sound effects when I hit someone, or no sound effects when I shoot something in the game, or I'm walking. They're pretty standard, and they don't take you out of the game. They're there to enhance and not distract you. Kind of like referees in a game. You're not supposed to notice them, So that's my analogy with sound effects. So
Gotcha.
for sound effects in this game, I will give it a double like.
Double like. Hey, look at that.
I'm using it. Why not? I don't think it deserves a love, but it's not a like, so it's a double like. So moving on to gameplay. What did you think of the gameplay in Ghouls N Ghosts, CK?
I like the gameplay. The gameplay serves as it should for a, platform side scroller. I like the variations in the levels. I like using Arthur. The only thing about the gameplay in here is that the levels kind of weirdly designed. They're more to be more like kind of map topographical, cartographic, kind of like it's got a more flat terrain, less platforming, because quite frankly there really is no platforming. It's more like a side scroller, one level type of thing.
There's some jumping. There is some
jumping. I mean, jumping over little platforms here and there, but jumping is definitely not a strong suit in this game. Yeah, with regards to the gameplay itself, it's enjoyable. The animations are there, which make it entertaining. The popping in and popping out of bad guys, that in itself is, something a lot different than a lot of other games used to have. Most games would only have your enemies or baddies, scroll in from one side and then exit the other side. They have a fixed path. They only move one way. Where in this one, it's almost kind of like they're random. And ultimately, they are random. They're randomized in a way that they programmed it so that, they will pop out of the ground in certain places and not pop out of the ground in the same spot. Not all of them anyway. Outside of that, running around, shooting things with your weapon is fantastic. Losing your armor, then losing your life or getting old. Like, these are awesome things about this game that make it challenging. You don't need to have all these crazy health bars and stock. You don't need to have, any type of major power-ups or anything like that. It literally comes down to changing a weapon if you want to, depend on what you're good at or what's more powerful for the situation, and making sure you collect that armor. The fact that you get hit, you can lose your armor and you're just a bare-skinned man running around, and then you collect that armor and you don't know when that armor is going to come again. You're basically at the mercy of the game. Then you get that armor. It's almost kind of like you have that shield. You have that extra on-screen life. They made it work. It's more than just this basic platformer. It's done well. It's done very well. The gameplay is a good experience. I would happily play this game over and over, even though it's a bit frustrating. The game is fun. That gets a double retro love for me.
Oh my god, double retro love.
Double retro love for gameplay. It's an entertainment event. I'd play this more than Mario. Even though you can say, well, it's still side-scroll platformer. It's like Mario. It's like Mario, but it's not like Mario.
That does not sound like me.
No, that is definitely not you. Trust me.
I do like Mario.
I know you do.
I hear what you're saying. The gameplay gets the job done. It's enjoyable. I remember the first time I played this game, I usually know within the first minute I'm playing a game whether I like it or I don't like it. Sometimes it grows on me, but this game, right away, I knew I liked this game. This game is very enjoyable experience, and the gameplay is unique. It varies. It's a side scroller. I like the little touches they add where the villains are coming up from the ground.
Yep.
You know, just things that pop up, and it's very creative how they did it. It's not generic in any way, and it's enjoyable. This game has unique gameplay. It's not redundant in a sense that you feel like you're bored. And a lot of weapon variations. The way they do it, as you said, the armor is very important. And there's whenever you find new armor, you get excited. Oh my God, you know, there's something new. And then you have to be careful with, you know, if you like a weapon, and sometimes some weapons in this game are way more useful than others. And if you're not careful, you can lose that weapon and you can't get it again. So you have to be careful there. So there's strategy involved in this game, and you have to know how to play it and how to tackle it and be careful. The gameplay is varied and it's enjoyable gameplay, so I will give the gameplay a retro double love. I was teetering if it should be a love or a double love, but I lean towards the double love, so I'm going to give it a double love.
Anyone who's played this game honestly can say that, you know, I really like this game. And really like would be like the lowest end of you saying it. Because I don't know anyone who would really say they dislike this game unless it's just not the game type that you like. And even so, give it a try. You know, play through the first 3 levels. And I can assure you, anyone who likes just platformers in general, this is the game to play.
Moving on to controls. What did you think of the controls in this game?
We've been using this term a lot. Serves the purpose. And ultimately, I think it does. The game plays a little bit stiffer than some platform games I've played. Not as tight as I'd expected. And only because of 2 things, really. I think it plays a lot to the fact that it was ported from an arcade. And again, my memory of playing the arcade version of this, the early arcade version, is very super sketchy. But ultimately, it doesn't give you the freedom to move and jump like a lot of other platform games do. A lot of side-scroll, either shoot-'em-ups or side-scroll platformers, you gotta have that tight control to be able to land on things. Because this game doesn't have that much in regards to multiple level jumping and having to like pinpoint landings, I don't think they focused on that as much. And the jumping in this is the only thing that annoys me about this game, is that when you're against an object and you press jump and try to press forward after you jump, it doesn't work. You have to actually be pressing the forward or whatever direction you're trying to jump in and the jump button at the same time to actually get him to jump in that direction, which, you know, stalls the whole jump and move thing that everyone's used to on platforms. And that was the only thing that threw me off about this game from the beginning. Outside of that, the controls in this game work. They, as I had mentioned, serve the purpose, and they do what you need to do to get through the level. It's the creations of the levels, it's the variety in the visual effect and the music that really draw you to the games. The controls didn't need to be that tight for you to really enjoy this game. And that's saying something, because there are a lot of games, as we've mentioned, that have tight controls that are crap, and then games that look beautiful and have really crap loosey-goosey controls. And you've mentioned that, and you said you'd rather have a game, if I'm not mistaken, you'd rather have a game that played well and the controls were so-so than have a game that had tight controls and was just a garbage game. I have to agree with you there. You know, this game does the graphics and the gameplay and the experience top-notch. The controls could be better, but they do the job. So because of that, they don't take anything away, and I'll give it a retro love.
Oh, I was thinking you're going to go like, to be honest. All right, so controls. The controls in this game, I do find them a little sluggish. They're not as responsive sometimes for me, I find. I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm walking in mud. I don't know if you get that feeling.
Yeah, as you move through, Arthur, I think the sprite moves faster than the character looks like they're moving. And yes, that sensation of running in mud or whatever, yeah.
it hurts the game a little bit. And the jumping is, it's standard, not reinventing the wheel. It doesn't do anything wrong. I would have liked it to feel a little bit faster at times, but I mean, it gets the job done. It's not a Mario game. That definitely played games that had better controls. It's enjoyable enough. It doesn't hamper the game that it makes it like unplayable, obviously, because then, there wouldn't be, great gameplay, right? It's
That's
just...
right.
The controls are just a little sluggish for my liking, and it does contribute to some frustration in the game, especially if you're not completely comfortable with the gameplay. I just find the controls can be a little bit off-putting. It's not to the point where I want to throw my controller or press it harder, the D-pad in any way, because there are times where I've played games where I feel like, am I pressing this D-pad hard enough to get where I need to go? Because I feel it's too sensitive, or it feels like I'm in quicksand or something, and it just doesn't, it's not a fun feeling. But the controls, they get the job done. I've played games that are a lot better, so I will give the controls a like. Alright, so moving on to difficulty. So what did you think of the difficulty in Ghouls N Ghosts?
Difficulty in this game is varying. I believe there are 2 difficulty modes, basically kind of like a normal and hard. And as you make your way through the game itself, I think that restriction that we both kind of sense in controls ultimately adds to the difficulty. If you were to able to jump and move as quickly as you normally would in any other platformer, you'd probably breeze through the game a little bit quicker and simpler than you do with this game. But because of that kind of sluggishness, I guess you were saying, kind of like it felt a bit sluggish, it does have you, pause and think. You have to time your jump. It makes it hard without it being hard. And then the fact that you can actually adjust the difficulty, that alone, makes it worth playing the game, because you can play casual and enjoy it, get really good at it, and then amp up the difficulty and then play it again and see if you can do as well. For the games that do that, they understand, players and how people like to kind of challenge themselves, top high score or best score, or speed runs and stuff like that. They created points in games for a reason. And to score high means you're playing the games multiple times. Because you're playing the game multiple times, you ultimately understand, the timing of every baddie and every obstacle and every jump and so on and so forth. So them adjusting the difficulty allows you to kind of play the game through again with a little more oomph and a little, different experience. And for that, I respect, and I give it a retro love.
That's awesome. Yeah, so for me, the difficulty, this game is known for its difficulty. Now, every Ghouls N Ghosts has a variation of a difficulty, but difficulty in Ghouls N Ghosts is pretty understandably in the internet as this game is one of the hardest games around in retro circles,
Really?
Especially for Super NES. It is a brutal, difficult game. Yes, it has adjustable difficulty, not a massive scale like in some games, but you can make it easier. But even on easy, this game is really difficult. I don't know if I would consider it the most difficult game around, and the Sega Genesis isn't as difficult as the Super NES version, but it's still a very difficult game. I mean, it all depends on what you consider difficult, right?
Difficult, that's right.
Some people have a hard time reflexes and memorizing patterns, but for me, I've always had a hard time with this game. I've gotten pretty far in the Sega version compared to the Super version, but this game, I consider it one of the harder games for the system. It's not Contra. It's certainly not on that level, but the difficulty, in my opinion, is higher even on low difficulty. I still feel the game really pounds you in the difficulty department. So for me, it's a retro-like for difficulty. But the reason I give it a low score is because you gotta play the game twice, and that's a no-no for me. Like, why would you want, you play a game and it's so hard and you put so much effort. I feel like they kick you while you're down. It's like, you know what, you passed it, thank you very much, now you gotta play it again. I don't think there's any game ever in the history of gaming, especially retro gaming, where you play it, you pass it, and nope, you gotta pass it again. Sorry, that's a cheat, and I don't like that. I don't respect that. Why would I want to play it twice? It's not an easy game. It's a challenging game. Even on easy, it's a challenge. This game kicks you a few times, and I feel It's a double kick. You know what? You passed the game, but nope, you didn't pass the game. You got to pass it again, and I think that's a big F you to the fans. Whoever did that, whoever said, hey, let's make them play it twice, is a jerk. He's a douchebag. I like to find out his name and tell him off, because I really think that's the big douchiest thing ever in gaming history, is to make you play a game twice.
That was interesting that you mentioned that. Why would you make that happen unless it had something heavily to do with the story, or ultimately you didn't actually play all the levels? You know what I mean? Like there's maybe some hidden stuff you have to go back to kind of redo again, but playing the whole game again, especially after, like you said, after you played it and, you know, blood, sweat, and tears, finally finished it, and now you're like, what? It's not done. I gotta do it again for complete.
I'm okay with them saying, hey, you know what? You gotta play a few more bonus stages. You know what I mean?
Right,
or you gotta play an extra 2 levels to get. But to do the whole game again, that's a F you. That's an insult. It's like someone who was developing this game really hated people, and they said, you know what? I don't like fans who play these games. They must have had a discussion about this game. Who said in the boardroom, raised their hand and said, hey, I got an idea, guys. Let's make them play it a second time. And then they okayed it.
Whoever had greenlit that was, what do they call it, masochist? I guess the only saving grace of playing it again, you ultimately know what you're in store for. So you can breeze through a lot easier. I gave the game credit for replayability, and I think maybe that's where they squeezed by on it. They're like, hey, well, people are going to replay the game anyway, so why not have them replay for like a full complete versus, you know, just finishing it one time.
But anyways, I digress. So you give it a love, I give it a like. Moving on to fun factor. What did you think of the fun factor in Ghouls N Ghosts, CK?
I love this game. I love it. So much going on in this game, and it has so much more. The game, for anybody who enjoys a platformer, side shooter, whatever you want to call them, it's a fun game. There's no doubt about the entertainment, which includes the difficulties. So the challenges in here alone are challenging, and when you get to know it, you just get better. And the replayability in this is high, I consider, at least for myself and the type of gamer I am. I would continually play this game to get better at certain areas. You can get better, play the game more, and because of the adjusting difficulty, it allows you to do that. So everything kind of part and parcel. The fun factor for me is a retro love. I would definitely replay it over and over. I'll probably play it a couple more times after this review, just because I want to get past a certain area and I want to see if I can master this particular section in the 3rd level. And at that point, once you start to think that way and you feel that way with playing a game, it becomes so much more enjoyable than just, I gotta play it to get through. I have to just get through. And I don't think anyone really says that about Mario games. I think they play it because they ultimately truly enjoy the experience. And for me, Ghouls N Ghosts is no different. It's playing through for that experience. So it gets a retro love for me.
Awesome. It's a fun game. There's a lot of things to do. It's very different armors you can get. The level designs are always nice. I love the bosses. They're detailed. They're enjoyable. They're fun to look at. The characters, the villains, they're all entertaining. It's got a nice style to it. The game's fun. The music adds to the experience. The music is never annoying. It's always upbeat and enjoyable. It's a fun game. What can I say? It's a very fun game, and I love it. And also the weapons. I love the different types of weapons that you could get. It's varied. They're all different. And so this game gets a love for me. So moving on, what do you think of the story? There's a small story in this game. It's pretty basic, but we could talk about it.
Yeah, it's a pretty basic story. This uses the Arthur Knight, medieval theme. It works for the game. He's trying to save his girl, Princess,
yeah. Which is pretty much like Mario. He stole it from Mario.
That is true.
It's a rip-off from Mario. He basically, you got this guy who's kind of like Bowser, I guess, and he takes right off the bat, the devil, which, Bowser is kind of the devil, and takes the girl, and then right off the bat, you are going to have to save her.
They use a standard, well-known theme and story and characters, and it just serves the purpose of delivering a little bit of heart to a very entertaining game. So it gets a retro like for me.
Awesome. Yeah. No, it's nothing groundbreaking. Most of the retro games, as we said, from that era, the stories are pretty light, There's nothing really going on. There's no massive cutscenes or anything. You just got a little bit of text and a small little snippet of what you're getting into and what you need to do. What you're what the whole point of the game is about, right?
Yeah.
But it's simple. Some devil guy takes your girl and you gotta go rescue her, because if someone takes your girl, what are you gonna do? You're not gonna sit back and eat pizza, you know? Because it's good motivation, right? Someone takes your girl, you're gonna go into a game and start platforming and jumping and doing your best to get her back. For me, it's nothing special. I'll just give it a half-like because there's really not much there.
Yep, I get you, and I respect that.
Okay, so this is the portion of the review where we tabulate our scores. I got a 33.
I scored a 35.
Alright, so I'm going to flip a coin. Heads are high. It's tails.
Oh, it's tails. All right.
Yeah,
well,
it's tails.
You get to choose. Look at that.
Alright, so I win. So my 3 selection, no particular order. Shinobi 3 for the Sega Genesis. Donkey Kong Country for the Super NES, the first one. And Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Genesis. So that's my 3 selections. So leave a comment below and let us know which of those games you want us to review in the next Retro Life review, and we will put it out there for you guys. Alright, on that note, thanks for being here, CK. Always a lot of fun.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me again.
It just gets better and better as we do it. Not to pat ourselves on our back, but it's a fun series, I think. I enjoy it a lot. That's all for now, and I will have more videos in the weeks, months, and years to come. Bye for now.
Later, folks.
Where's the coin? I flipped it and I lost it. I seriously lost the coin. I heard it go and it just disappeared. Unbelievable. There it is. All right.
What is it?